Good morning, Hexaco. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Well, where I am, it's morning. For you, it might be night. It might be tomorrow. Somewhere in the world. I don't know. I don't know. It's 8:30 a.m. East Coast. So, don't know. Hey, Tim. How you doing out there, buddy? I hope you're enjoying your travels. You're all over the place. All right. Got some good information to share. Just getting a couple things set up over here. Boom. Yes, so yesterday I did the T-share report. Some of you might have tuned into that. That was pretty amazing to watch that. Who to pump. We'll go look at that chart here in a moment. I guess the big news today, August 10th, 2026, in the bond market is today at 0.000 UTC. 8,000s can be staked for 5,555. So what does that mean? Let me go backwards. So once the clock flips tonight, a Quattro Cinco stick will end at day 8,000, and so that would just make it a lot easier for people to mint 8,000s and put up the LP and all the rest, which has been something we've been watching grow. I mean, the timing is interesting on all this because the 8,000s are coming out. HEX is pumping. There's already a pretty substantial market for the HTT-8000s. Farming starts in 2 months, and that's where people will be able to farm their LP token for actuator tokens, and we'll look at the actuator tokens as well. Yeah, so here, that's what's going on and what's changed. Since yesterday, we did see HEX make another move to the upside. Last I looked, and we'll look at the chart in a couple minutes, over 0.003, may have broken and flipped that to support. I guess we'll have to watch that and see. On the 8,000 specifically, they're affected by the price of HEX because they're priced in HEX. HEX went up, so the liquidity has increased almost to 30K now on the 8,000s, which is a pretty good bit. Somebody did a bunch of minting and amplifying, so the ratio came down from 0.6 to 5.7. I love me some London. Let's see. So things are moving along. Let's see what else. Let's go look at the chart. Let's go look at some of this stuff. Acid, good to see you. Vietnam. Right. So I could have started, Tim, if I knew you were going to be here. I could have been like, good morning, Vietnam. Anybody who's old enough to remember that? That was a big deal. Movie quote at one time. Oh my God. I just got to sit here and watch this just for a moment. 1,000 USDC gets you 311,000 HEX. Can you imagine that? I mean, can you just, like, it's a bit surreal. It's very comforting to actually see the price go up after so many years. But I mean, it was only about a month ago or so you could get 1.2, 1.3 million, right? And the hops are incredible. The number of hops now to move around, and yeah, it's like just watching this HEX get funneled into the market, and just taken off the market. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of HEX out there in wallets, right? So, I mean, there's definitely the possibility that somebody comes in with more HEX and dumps it and all the rest. But the question is, are we buyers or are we sellers? That's the question, right? And I say we, I mean the community, right? And kind of a little aside there. If anybody hasn't read or taken the time to go read the Richest Man in Babylon, there's some really good business advice in there and whatnot. Anyways, there is one thing that always stuck out to me that was part of that book is in anything that you're doing, you need to pay yourself yourself. You need to pay yourself. And I'm assuming we're way at the beginning of maybe a run up, not at an end. But it certainly would be a shame if we go all the way to the top, and if you had needed to take some profits if you did not. And that's all about planning, and there's lots of emotions, right? You know, we talk about fear of missing out, which we're probably going to crest that here soon, where people will be like, oh, I missed some of this, and you know, they're going to come in. But there's also the fear of selling. And that's the other side of the coin, where and this is why we talked about units for so long, right? If you have enough units at the bottom that when you get to the top, you can just shave off a small portion of your bag and sell it, or on the way to the top, you can be happy with that. People can be very happy with that, because everybody can't catch the top, you know. And sometimes I think what we do as human beings, we'll plan for, oh, X is going to be $1, you know, and I have 1 million HEX, and that'll be $1 million. And that's kind of like missing the whole point, you know, of things, because yeah, money's a point, right? But if you're really focused on that, then, you know, you wait for the next double. I'll wait for the next double. I'll wait for the next double. But then eventually markets do top. Now I don't spend too much time talking about tops of markets. We're still way at the bottom, but let's go look at the chart. Let's go look and see what we're seeing with the HEX. So still rising, still above the 0031 level. That's good. There was a little bit of battling last night. Let's put it on the hourly. Look at the battle that took place. I think this is where I streamed right here yesterday. I think this is when that was. Right around that time, we came way up, and during the stream, whoosh, right back down. So we had that 40K volume going up, elevator up, 78K coming down, and then it milled around for a little bit. Market bought it back up. So, you know, these types of things, these might be individuals or not, right? But this is market testing. All of this is market testing. You test the market. You know, somebody might have actually done a swing trade, and then somebody else bought the inventory back up. But it's market testing to see what the market will do. And yeah, we know that there's billions of HEX out there in wallets. Are we coming down a little bit? Yeah, we came down a little bit after the 3 a.m. candle here, but that was about 20K, 17K, and volume, another 7K in the last couple hours, 7 or 8K. So we can see these numbers are going to move around, right? And this is all normal volatility, right? And what we're really looking for is when the candles are red, for this volume to really tamp down and become almost nothing, and when it's green to get follow up volume. And I was looking at this yesterday to go to the weekly. You can see down here at the bottom, it's very easy to see back in 25, back in 23, very big volume candles. We have not even begun to see volume here. We haven't even begun to see volume here. So that will be coming, I would assume. So there you go. That's that. Let's see what we have in the chat here. Let's see what's going on. Hold on one moment. Yeah, a little dog in the background crying. Right. Yeah, Acid saying we did a 4X in a very short time period. We did. Cindy Lou, good to see you. Pocalypse. Crispy, my brother, and me just lock up Quattro Cinco again. Yes. Yes, the 8000s allow me to do that. I feel very comfortable with that. Of course, this is an actuator stream, so I am using the HTT-8000s for that purpose, right? I don't see why I wouldn't. You know, if I'm interested in staking, why wouldn't I set HSIs up so that I could do that? And I do believe you are right. Generational wealth is right in front of our eyes. Don't miss your chance. Get your T-shares. Those T-shares. I was saying this yesterday. I think we're in a period of time where most people can still afford T-shares, like a whole T-share. And but my guess is that we're just not going to see the demand that you would think. You would think, right? The APRs are low, but they're going up. You know, and so yeah. Well, for those who are in the walled garden, congratulations. Oh boy, Acid Thunder. Make a comment before we move on. Always saw HEX as a long-term ladder plan, so taking a small amount every now and then, and stacking T-shirts has always been the idea. Yeah. Well, that was the concept, right? CD ladder concept from TradFi is that you take your quote-unquote liquidity, you lock it up in a CD, certificates of deposit or certificate of deposit, and when you get to maturity, you shave off what you need, and then you go out for the longest length that you're willing to go. And that's a valid plan, right? For people to do that. But that's what Richard always talked about, anyways, with in terms of HEX, right, and staking of HEX. That, and I just see this expansion pack of actuators just really helping that. We've seen in fact, you might even argue that the pump is because of actuator. That'd be kind of cool if we could prove that. We do know that that we're seeing T-shares being made out at day 8000, or will, as soon as we roll over tonight, but out around that area because people are staking Quattro Cinco. So actuator's doing its job, attracting users. All right, this is just taking a look at the EX-HEX ratio. This is it's pretty interesting. This is daily, so this is the last week, fairly flat. But EHEX rising up against HEX. I think a bunch of the HTTs now, you can actually get more HTTs per EHEX because of the pricing, because of the fractional pricing that's over there. So that's going along. In the actuator world, we have the Actuator token, which is one of the ways that people, if you didn't want to mess with anything, you just wanted to get Actuator, you can get Actuator and go drop it into the vaults and earn a portion of the HTTs. And what I'm guessing is HTT-8000s are going to be minted like crazy for a while. So we have that over there. If we look at the curve itself, we have some interesting things developing over here on the curve. Let me see if I'll bring this up, make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. And HEX price, we have our legacy 2430 token out there at 4.5 HEX. People playing around with that, buying a little bit. Those can still be minted, but we're past 2430. We have the HTT 2460, and we can see that the I moved over too far, but we need to go this way. You can see liquidity is coming up pretty good on these. $64 and not a lot of liquidity, but at the front end here, 2460 is almost 8K now. So that's the benefit also of getting those X's. And I think I did try to cover that a few times, let people know that these things can move pretty quickly. But we're getting a pretty good spread of liquidity on the front end, all the way to up to day 3000. This is where somebody had gone through and created HTTs every 30 days. 3000 is incredibly cheap. It's ridiculous. This is something somebody was pointing out to me, the other day, is that, the fact that you can go ahead and stake out into 2940, let's say, and get 10% more of the tokens by swapping into the 3000s. So you have your stake, it's earning just like normal, and you only have to go another 60 days and just increase the amount of HEX that you're going to get just by waiting an additional 60 days. And I know that trading isn't for everybody for sure, but we're just watching this pretty close. Those 3000s are pretty juicy. We're also seeing that the time trades are available. The 8000 right now on this chart is up at 0.57. So you can actually stake out to 8,000, and if you weren't planning to go in the farms, which I think most people are, you can roll that all the way down 5.7. You can roll that up or down, whichever way you want to call it, down to the day 5,000. Shave 3,000 days off. I mean, this is plenty of liquidity to do it. I mean, 5,000, got 129,000 in liquidity, and the 8,000's at 30K. So you could shave 3,000 days off of the wait time for the HEX. I've been seeing people come in and do amplification on HTT-8000s this week. Where what they're doing is they're swapping their 8,000s out for HEX and then restaking. So we're seeing that happen. So pretty incredible. Let's go look what we got over here. So this is my little cheat sheet. It is the same deck screener, still the source. We're just taking a look at this, and so this is a full picture of the front end and what we're seeing for prices. And it's been very interesting to watch, because I do think that some of you brainiacs out there are actually working the system, even though it's low liquidity in part. But they're very uniform. Prices are very uniform. And then we do get the sudden drop off as we get out past 2910 into 3000. You know, and the idea that you can get 40% more HEX at redemption for HTT-8000 is crazy. Now, somebody paid for that, though, right? Now, maybe they don't care because they're getting the Actuator token. But so, you know, and they're doing farming or whatever, but somebody sold for that price to come down, right? Because it was at a higher price. And people might point to that and go, well, that makes this terrible. But no, it doesn't. It just means that the people providing the liquidity as a service to the community, they can just have a whole bunch more HEX, 40% more HEX in the LP when they're done, because they can redeem all of those HTTs one-to-one. And it's likely, I'm going to guess that it's still a year and a half out. But I'm going to guess that between now and then, you know, a 40% fixed ROI is not going to remain. I mean, there's enough of us who are savvy enough now with what this means to us, is that should get bought up. In fact, you would argue that, you know, if we had attention on this particular market right now, that this would already be a done deal. Like, these numbers would already be gone. I mean, 42%. It's crazy. It just goes to show how early we are. And big top of the morning to you, Sean. Top of the morning. Let's see here. Looking at the long end, you know, again, another crazy thing. We're up at 192% on the 7900s. Wow. This just means that you can get, you know, almost 3 times as much HEX. Where you swap a HEX in, you get almost 3 back. And if you held the 7900, you'd be able to turn them in one-to-one to HEX. So these numbers are beating Quattro Cinco staking right at the moment. But somebody had to stake in order for this to be created. So I don't want people to get that backwards. Right? Because some people go, wow, you're just giving people the opportunity to just trade within themselves. I don't think so. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as somebody actually put up liquidity for this. And you know, to do that, they had to mint these tokens. So that opportunity is now there to draw more people potentially into the ecosystem, because maybe you don't want to stick. right? There are people, obviously, there's people that don't want to stake. Talked to a guy the other day, very successful with HEX. His whole strategy was from the beginning, stay liquid, sell, and he did, and did very well. During the 2021 season, never did a stake. So there are people out there that are in HEX that don't stake, and that is one of the types of users that we have. Well, in any case, they could still get exposure to staking through the HTTs, right? So, I mentioned before, one easy way to get involved is Actuator and depositing in the vault so you can earn HTTs. It's kind of like a set it, forget it type of thing. Another possibility is, pick your time frame and the ROI that you'd like and swap for the tokens. I mean, they're out there. They're on the market. That's what it's for. And so what do you get out of that? You get more HEX. And then eventually I would expect, again, as this market continues to grow, these are going to get tighter, but they're not tight now. Right now, they're, doing like a Quattro Cinco. I think if somebody looks it up, it's about 88% if you just do a Quattro Cinco straight up. And so that might give you kind of an idea of what the heck is happening, why anybody would be even willing to put up LP, because they have their stake. So let's think about that for a moment. So if I go in and I create a 8,000 stake, and I mint the 8,000, that stake is earning Quattro Cinco style, right? So it's already earning more HEX Quattro Cinco style. And then I can take that 8,000, pair it up with HEX and put it in LP, and presumably earn my 1 to 2% APY or APR in the pools, in PulseX pool. And then for the next year, once the farm comes out, I can put it into the farm and earn Actuator tokens on top of that. So it seems like that mouse trap will work, right? That will work, and earn more. And then it's okay. So now I have my liquidity out here. And what if the price goes down? Well, price goes down, more 8,000s are deposited into the pool. And so my portion of the 8,000s goes up, and it's all going to be HEX at some point in the future. So those are two ways, Actuator. Or, somebody could look at this as a complete ladder. Pick your time frames, pick your discounts. They're all discounted to HEX, and you're able to have exposure here. And then as you learn, if you decide you want to do more things, you get more involved and actually do staking. One of the reasons I keep thinking about this as a window into more people staking. Right. And that's just my opinion, of course. But hey, I didn't make this thing. Somebody else made it. And here it is. Here it is. All right, let's see what we have for the vaults. I'm showing 322 million in change in the vaults. Highest vault is the 7,000. 8,000 is coming up. It's now the second highest, almost coming up to 60 million. This is where people are loading in there because they know they're going to get mints of the 8,000s, right? And so they're going to want to earn a piece of that, and that's why this is getting loaded up. I haven't checked to see if we've had reductions on any of the others. We did see the 20 million get pulled from the 7,000s a week or so ago and get transferred into the 8,000s and then spread. You can see all the 8 different HTTs. The front end HTTs all seem to have 200,000 or 300,000, 400,000 in there. There's still some room to grow. We are coming up about 20 days or so until 2460 hits redemption. So we'll be able to watch that redemption in real life and see how this is going to work. So if you're interested in just participating in that, you get yourself a little bit of 2460 and you can learn the ropes. It doesn't have to be a lot, right? Don't have to be a lot. Mints last 24 hours, according to the data that I have, about 322,000 have been minted. 140,000 of those have been 8,000s. That's what that looks like to me. Let's go over to the Actuator farms. Looks like I think they shift around a bit, but HTT-8000, 23% APR at the moment. 5,000's 22.3, 6,000's 23.1%. HTT-3000s are paying about 13%, and the 7,000's 17.9%. A little bit of a spread there on that. This is where people put liquidity up. Liquidity's come back nicely, both being added, so we're getting a little bit more depth, but also rising value. Because wasn't so long ago, 7,000 from below 100K market. We've gone up 4x, so or 3x. We've seen it go up. So good clip of liquidity at this point. So we're looking like about 600K or so. Probably look at their dashboard, it'll tell us on their site. The highlights from the Actuator team, they're saying Quattro 7's best for buying long-term overall. Best premium at the moment is 6,000. I have seen that flip back and forth between 8 and 6 over the last couple of days. Best APR 3,000. Let's see what the metrics say over here. All right. So liquidity pools, about 841,000 according to their site. The total value of HTTs minted out, they're saying 597,000 US. And, just to give you an idea how much HEX has been involved over here, $500 million almost, 452 million HEX. It's a lot of HEX. At stakes that are out there. And from that's where the 371 million were minted. So still pretty early, I would say. Still pretty early. Let's go over to, this is that new HEX Bond site. Man, somebody put a lot of work into this. This is awesome. I mean, the amount of information that's here is pretty crazy. But you can come to this site and get a lot of good information, ways that you can participate. Very, very concise. The creator on this has a link where you can submit questions and or suggestions, right? So if there's a correction that needs to be made, you can share it with them. Just showing different strategies, different methodologies that can be used. It's pretty detailed. Operation manual, summaries, start here button. Let's go there and look. This is pretty cool. So anybody who's interested, you can go over to the site. And I think this is probably the best disclaimer I've ever seen, right? This site is a library, deliberately comprehensive. Yeah, it's pretty good. So you can come in here if you're brand new to crypto, gather information here this way. I know crypto. What's HEX and Pulse Chain? You don't know about HEX? You can come in here and learn about HEX and staking, etc. I know HEX. Should I care about Actuator? Of course, you know my opinion. I do think you should care. You don't have to use it, but I just think you should care. No. But I know about HEX. Should I care about Actuator? About 10 minutes to decide. I come from TradFi. Okay, here's the information. Trying to make that bridge over to people who are in TradFi, who actually make a living and trade bonds on the regular. Here you go. And then you could just be like, nope, I don't care about any of that stuff. Just show me charts. Show me charts. Let's go over the charts. There's a lot here. I can't go through this whole site. Just show everybody everything. But pretty good listing. of the charts. If I'm not mistaken, this site gets updated a couple times a day. Some of the stuff is live. You have to read their disclaimer down here at the bottom for that. I'll show you the one that I was looking at that I thought was pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, this one here, farm and vault yields. Let's look there, see what they're reporting. All right, so this is the farm yields. Okay, these numbers look pretty close to the numbers we were just looking at in a little bit slightly different order. Again, showing 3,000, 17.3%. HTT 4,000 is 24.5, 5,000 is 23.5, 6,000 is 23.6, 7,000 is 20.4. A little explainer on how that is calculated. Keep in mind the 3,000s in 2 months will no longer earn in the farm, but the 8,000s will. This is pretty cool. This is farm rewards harvested. What's they have it per day? How much is being claimed? What was the last day over here? So 3K so far today has been claimed. Let's go back a couple days. So it looks like half a million per day being claimed. It just means that they've been they're in the vaults and people are in the farms, and you can withdraw your rewards, which are actuator tokens. This is pretty detailed, guys. I gotta get a little bit more into this site. I'll also go take a look at the HEX Analyzer site in more detail. It's another community-generated website to help bridge the gap with information. I really do appreciate people doing this stuff. I like it. I like it. This is kind of a visual on what's happening. We're right here at this orange line today. During this year period up until October, 250 million actuator was being released over the last 10 months and in the next 2 months. So got a little bit left to that 250 million. But then in year 3, 150 million will be released between October of 26 and October 27. So people who are interested in the actuator token. But this one is pretty cool. Okay, so vault yields, the 1% mint fee. And when people mint HTTs, they pay a 1% fee. It looks like they give you a little instruction how you can go calculate your own. I'm not going to click through, but I guess this is an example. Showing just how much has come. So these are the total amounts of actuator vaulted, the HTTs that were minted, the fees that were collected. Oh yeah, so I'll have to pass this along to him. I think that this is off by 10 times too much. That's what I think. Right? Because what's 1% of 24 million? Maybe I'm wrong. Let's get the calculator. 24 million times point. I should already know this, right? If I use the math. Nope, that's right. 248,000 is right. Okay, so for the HTT-8000, the site is reporting annualized yield at being around 41%. The HTT-3000s. So that means the actuator they have vaulted has earned them 41%. I guess that makes sense. to me because the Actuator token is relatively cheap. It does go up. It goes up with HEX, but primary liquidity is Pulse, and HEX is on a run. And so the fact that HEX is up in price, the HTTs are up in price. So then that makes sense to me that this has probably increased greatly because the amount that's there. So 3,000's good target in terms of being pretty healthy in the vault. Of course, this is affected by both the actuator that's vaulted and the amount of minting. So the 7,000s, it's down at almost 2%, right? Very, very tiny compared to 41%. But it's got 108 million, actuator in there. Right, but there's only so much actuator, right? And so it gets a little sticky, and people moving it around. Pretty cool. All right. You can actually look. Yeah, it's a little too small to see some of these because that's 2490. Let's go to the 8,000. See if that pops up. So you can see it turning on and off on the screen, but it's really tiny. So here's the aggregate. Let me turn that off. See what happens. You can see which ones are being vaulted. The 7,000s have been coming up pretty good and had a little bit of a drop. And then I'm assuming this is the 8,000. Yeah, 8,000 over there. So you can turn all of these off, I guess. And similar to the actuator site itself. So you can actually turn them off and then pick a particular one and see. So that's nearly vertical. Nearly vertical. And then you can actually do small vaults as well, which probably represents that front end. So if we look at the 8,000, that's what that looks like. 7,900, slowly rising. I think, because so many of us are interested in t-shirts, I'm guessing that the 8,000 will be the happy one for a while, right? But then people are going to not going to want to stake on up to day 8,000. They might be okay with doing like a 5,500 stake, but do they really want to do a 5,499 day stake, that type of thing? Because what ends up happening is the longer we get past 8,000, Quattrocincos don't stick there, and you have to take on emergency end stake risk to get the 8,000s if you don't go to the 8,000 day and you go Quattrocinco. And so I am curious to see what the community is going to do once we get far enough out past the 8,000s. And will we see, I don't know, will we see an 80-30? Will we see an 80-100? 80, 83-60? I don't know. Somebody will make one though. Any of us can do it. You just have to be willing to put up liquidity to put one out there. So the toolkit is there, and you can see with the 7s, we saw that with the 7s, for a long time, we just were seeing a lot of people going as far out as they could with the HTT-8000s, and then we saw the 777 come out back in December, and then the 7,900 came out in May. So yeah, just watching these guys kind of grow as we go. What's the chart that I want to go look at? I did load in. Let's go to HTT chart. Oh, curves is where I want to go. Oops. Go to curves. There we are. Go to curves. You can go look at the discounts and the spread. This will be very important for people who are trading the curve later. This type of information. Curve is a table, kind of pointing out which ones are, and scoring them, which ones are good to get in the opinion of the data, right? Yeah, you guys can go peruse this. I put in the forecast 2 payouts for the long end of the HTTs. So I put these payouts in there. They've been bouncing around a little bit because we are seeing some staking up, pulse chain, T-shares up, T-shares down, trending down, but they're moving around, affecting the payouts that are out there. This gives us the amplification staking, and this was I was mentioning that I don't know if you can turn these off. Let's see. I don't know if you can turn one off or not off on this, but in any case, see the red line represents amplification. Which ones might get you more T-shares and more yield, which is different than what gets more HEX locked up. Right? We've seen that with some people and their activities. Johnny's done a lot of locking up. That does not necessarily focus on increasing your individual ROI, but more of a community thing to lock up. That's where we saw the HTT-8000s being minted and locking them up at least for a year and a half, and then seeing them move that HEX out further up the chain, up the curve. You see that? The green line here, let's see what they say. They have full explanations here, right? Amplified is red, green line is native staking, blue dot is buying off the market. All right, so almost in every case except for the 8000s, buying off the market at the moment gets you more yield than doing your own stake. Right? So this is why we see the difference. And there's only one case that shows amplification right now, according to my guesses. Right, only one, which is the 8000. That's a pretty cool little chart here to be able to look at. Look at all these little front end ones, all jammed up here at the beginning. They're like on top of each other. Bloop, 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 bloop. What else? Let's go to the chat. I'm probably done with anything unless you guys have questions. Let me go to the chat, see what you got. I saw that Sean was in Dublin. I love Dublin. Dublin's a nice place to visit. You get a chance to go there, go. Great pubs. Moon Mutt, I see you out there. Woo! Crypto conspiracy. Or conspiracy crypto. All right. Good question. Top Gun, can you explain the date to mint HTT-8000, what the difference is doing it early like people have been doing? May have touched on this earlier. Yeah. Well, it's DeFi, man. People can do it how they want. Get a jump on things, right? So if you can do it, people can push a button. They're going to do it. So you have that aspect of it. Now, strategy-wise, probably doesn't matter anymore. It's no sense in, tonight, after we hit midnight UTC, then a Quattro Cinco stake will be out today 8000. So if we knew that the 8000s were coming, right, and we know the farms are coming. So the strategy behind it was, and let's go look at the chart, price chart. I'll see what the price chart is. Because I think that helps tell part of the tale. Right, so let's go look at the 8000. Oops, clicked the wrong one. That's the 7900. 8000. Let's put this on the day. All right. So we're going to switch this over to HEX, not dollars. Let's see what happens. All right. So initially, what did this open at? The high, the low, the close, the open. The open was at 0.90 right here. I guess I already looked at this one time. So that's where it was, 0.90. And that meant to put liquidity up for the token, knowing that the farms were coming. You would need how much HEX would that have been? you would have had to put in, if it started at 0.90, you'd have to put 1 hex in and 1.1, roughly 1.1 HTT-8000. So it cost you 2.1 hex. 2.1 hex to set the liquidity position at that price. And the price didn't really last more than a day, right? It was down to 76 the next day. So keep that in mind. So 2.1 hex, right? So what do I have to put in now? What do I have to put in now? So if I wanted to go set LP with 8,000, the price is 0.57, right? And so if I divide that out, 1 divided by 0.57 roughly, I would need 2.75 hex. 2.75 hex. So it's just a little bit more hex is needed now, 0.6 more. So it's kind of like a numbers game to get set with the liquidity. So you gotta put up even more hex now to mint the 8,000s that you need to get the same position roughly. Right. So that's one part of the strategy. That's one part of the strategy. The other part of the strategy that we see that some people have done, like we do the 777s. Let's look at those. You know, because as a person in the community, I want them to be cheap if I want them, right? So I can get them cheap if I want to buy them off the market. But as an LP provider, cheap isn't great, right? It's okay. It's just not great. Much better if the price starts out. If you think of it like when Johnny talks about putting your hand in the cookie jar, right? So the 777s, they started at 1.04 hex, right? So the same thing applies. You could have a lot more hex to make the same liquidity positions now. But for the liquidity providers who came in, this was community driven, where, you know, it was a very specific day, that 7777 on the day that this started, the Quattrocinco on December 15th was 7777. So you see people do things like that. And that was pretty cool that it lined up that way. But it started at 1.04 hex, right? So if you had come in and shot your wad immediately and did the pool, right? And you were the person setting up the pool. This is not incentivized pool, right? So it's just a pool. And you put up the hex to do it along with the 7777s, right? It created an amplification opportunity where other people see high price. It went up, you know, this is a day chart. So we saw it went up, came down, went up, came back down, right? That just has to do with people having fun and FOMO fooling around with the chart, buying it up, even though we knew it was only going to be 1 hex. Why would you buy it up to, you know, 1.3, right? But they did, right? Whatever. But that created amplification opportunities. When you say, well, what does that mean? Well, that meant that during this period of time, when it was above 1, you could actually swap and get more. You could go mint at that time. And assuming the liquidity, you know, supported it, you could go stake 100,000 hex, mint the 100,000 HTTs, and swap them back for hex 100%. Get all your hex back, you know, minus slippage and fees and all that kind of stuff, and then restake and create an amplified stake. And I don't remember exactly what happened on the 31st. That's probably what happened here. Somebody went through and did bunches of amplifications. If I put it in the 4-hour, maybe we can get to it. I'll drag it over. I really should be able to filter this, but yeah. So you can see on the 4-hour, we had a couple. Well, this is the drop over here. We had a couple big drops. It was not a lot of value in the LP at the time. We got a lot more value in there now, but you know, $250 worth brought it back down to 0.74. So anyways, I guess what I was thinking is if anybody ever wants to do an HTT launch of your own. And somebody might do that, right? Because they want to set liquidity and be the owner, be the owner of their domain, the king or queen of their domain. What they could do is actually set the liquidity and set it high. And what had to happen is that somebody else had to mint future HEX, and they sold it to you cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until the market kind of said, it's cheap enough. And then, so there's some strategy to pricing on that stuff. And of course, having the liquidity out there in another node is good. So you have that kind of thing happening. I hope that answered the question. Let me see if I can. I know I went a little bit further, but your question was, what's the difference between doing it early? It was just getting a head start, corner in the market, I believe, in terms of that. And then, of course, because HTT-8000s can be minted, they were minted. It's DeFi, and because they were minted, fees were being paid in terms of the 1% minting fee, which drove the Actuator deposits up to 50 million at this point, right? So makes the whole thing really sticky. Really sticky. Okie dokie. You say you like charts a lot. I like charts too. One time, I like making jokes. I joke around way too much. I do. Alan, it's still there. What is the other token that gave a discount for staking? Heck, it's called Communis. Communis. It's a reward token. Speculative reward token. And it's still out there. Still got some LP. People still selling it. If you're doing native staking, you get that. You also have the ability to stake your COM as it comes out of your native stakes. Nothing wrong with that. And native staking, and I've said this a bunch of times, is the strongest commitment to the HEX ecosystem you can make. It is. It is. And doing out for Quattro Cinco native, I got plenty of them, is the strongest commitment for sure. But that is called Communis. Oh yeah, Top Gun, you might be right. I might be wrong about the day. So let's look and see. Let's look and see. I might be calculating wrong. Do we believe? Let's see. I think we agree that today is 24:43. Okay, so we are in agreement. I believe that is the day. And let's go look at stakes. What would happen if I do a stake? Well. All right, so if I am going to do a stake right now, it will start tomorrow. That is the day that it starts. The first thing you do is add one. And I kind of wish they could probably change this up. Maybe they will change this site up a little bit more. They gave us this information, which was pretty good. So if you take 24:43, which today is a HEX day because it's UTC day, it will start on day 24:44. And then if we add 5 to that, it comes 799. Yeah, you might be right. So I may have done it one day early. But that's why we can go check and see. Let's see what this is. I must have screwed that up. Thank you for pointing that out. 100,000. So you get one more day. We'll do 100,000 HEX. The HEX day is not here because it's not part of their normal setup. Make this a little bigger for everybody else. So I'm going to do custom end date. Let's see what happens if I do 7779. Yep, Quattro Cinco right now. All right. So at this moment, yeah. I was right. Wait a minute. I was right. So at this moment, Quattro Cinco is 79999 or 7999. Right, that's a Quattro Cinco. But when we turn over the clock tonight, it'll be 8,000. So I was right. So embarrassment avoided. But yeah, the time frames on the dates screw me up sometimes. Always trying to figure out what's what. Now in the U.S. here, they did vote that states can not change their times anymore if they want to. So possibly no more time changes. But of course, every state gets to decide what they do. So I don't know what the heck is going to happen with that, but we'll see. So at the moment, a going out to 7,999 is Quattro Cinco of 100,000 hex. Gets you how many T-shares? 6.46 T-shares. And then tomorrow be a little bit less T-shares probably, but a 555 will be 8,000. Now, okay, so what if I went forward right now and made a stake? If I did, I would still be able to mint HTT-8000. I would just get a little bit less because that's how the calculation works in the contract. And then every day I would still earn HEX rewards, and they would be available to me to extract as HTTs if I chose to. So the preference, the best case for staking is to go to the specific day that you have liquidity that you want to mint. The next best is to be as close to that date as possible before, but you can also have HSIs that end after a maturity date. But if you do that, you run the risk of emergency end stake at the end, because you have to come back and pay those HTTs back, because otherwise somebody in the community will do it. And they could emergency end stake your stake if you took it out and didn't pay it back. So the preference is that your stake ends before or on a specific HTT that you mint. That's my opinion. So yeah. All right. Hope that answered that question. Hope that answered that question. Ironworks, good to see you. Good to see you. What time is it in New Zealand? That's what I'd like to know. All right, let's see. What else we want to look at? I'm looking at a blank screen right now. We'll go back over the dashboard. Check that out. Okay, so nothing's really changed here. Every time I look at HEX, it goes up. I don't know what's going on there, but every time I look, it keeps going up. A little bit of a daily here. That's looking pretty good. Still above 3.1 levels, and the chart's updating. Very nice. Very nice. Let's see what happens. We just keep watching this, Yeah, this has been a heck of a run. Heck of a run up so far. But so we got so far to go, though. Look at this. Got lots more volume that's needed. Go back to weekly. Look at this. I mean, we're my little bars in the way. I mean, we're barely. We still need to get up into this range to get back to where we were. But this could end up being a pretty interesting range of price action up here. And it looks like the bottom of this was, before we fell through, was 3.536, 3.69. Yeah, something like that. So I think once you get up that kind of level, and then you start getting into some interesting territory, at least from the pulse chain chart. And of course, the top on pulse chain was around 3 cents. So this will be a very exciting range to break back into. And then, I don't know. We'll see from there. Maybe the elevator up. Elevator up. I am looking for that 1 penny. I'd like to see that. I think that can be accomplished this month, by the end of the month. Which is roughly another 4x, right? I guess it's not quite 4x. a little bit more than 3x, right? So if we do 0.01, divide that by 0.003174. It's a 3.15x in price. I think we can get that done. I think we can. And then that would set up a pretty interesting kind of a chart channel, maybe between the 3 cent and 1 cent bubble. We'll make stuff come true based on our viewpoints and things we say, right? People do that. Actualization, I think it's called. Oh, well, wait, we have a protocol called Actuator. Actualize. Johnny Cass in the house. All right, so things are looking pretty good overall. I think looking pretty good. Seeing pretty interesting spread here across. How much volume? About 40K volume today. Wow. On the HTTs, that's pretty good. It's not like other tokens though, right? I mean, you have to have, a lot of volume is coming in through LPX. But in general, with an HTT, you're not going to see volume on it unless somebody is doing something, right? HEX going up in price does not create volume. HEX going up in price and an HTT going up in price and then creating an imbalance because it's also paired with pulse or something like that, that creates a little bit of volume, right? But by and large with these, you're not going to see volume unless somebody's doing something, and that includes the LPX over there. So, and I know, dude, it's like, I don't know how many transactions are going through there, but I think they're up to like 6,000 transactions against HTTs with LPX now. Another 2,000 or 3,000 with Actuator, the token itself. So yeah, what ends up happening with these, with anybody's pool, I don't know if anybody here watches the LPX, but you have to be over 2K liquidity, and the contract auto approves on LPX. And then if people are depositing tokens into LPX, it'll trade back and forth. Market making software contract, I guess is the right way to say that. It's a contract, not a software. It's a contract. But you see all these different liquidities. When these pop above 2K, what'll end up happening is they'll get it auto approved. And I think with their UDEX software, we'll probably start seeing the LPX also monitoring these ratios and kind of keeping them all linked up. So it won't just be up to the ARBs that are out there, the ARB bots. It won't just be the ARB bots. It would also be LPX. Yeah, and keep in mind on this front end, what we saw the creator do was create each one of these tokens and then link them up with the next one, the previous one, and the one after. And so we'll look at one of these. Which one had any type of activity on here? We'll look at 2460, since that's the one that's coming up anyways. Too many different things to look at. I probably should be more organized. It should be on this list somewhere. 2490, 2460. Here we go. Clutter in my brain. Let's look at that. Okay, so these are different pools that are up for 2460, and you can see there's a 2460 to 2490 V2, 2460 to 2490 V3, 2460 to 3000 V3, 2460 to 3000 V2, 2460 to Pulse, 2460 to HEX, both V2 and V3, smaller liquidities, $300, $200. 8K up here in the 2460 to HEX. So you have these pools that are set, and we're not going to see, I guess we're not going to see the HTT to HTT pool in here because it probably hasn't had any volume. So you have to take my word for it that they're, oh, you know what, I say that, but I didn't look closer. Let me look. So I just breezed over it. Here it is, 2460 to 2490. What we're not seeing is the 2430. It's not up there. So if we go look at the V2 in this one, see what the chart looks like. I mean, you can look, there's days go by that there's no trading between the two of these, right? 3 days, 2 days, 6 days out, 8 hours. There's not a lot of trading. But what's happening here on this chart is what? Put in log. Didn't really change it. So it's just ratioing back and forth. They're linked together. They're linked together, so one goes up, the other one goes up a little bit. Presents an opportunity for the, for the curve to be normalized. So those are linked every 30 days, right? So 2490 has the 2460 and also has the 2520, so on and so forth. And then you have the additional pools that are out there that anchor it out to 3000. Right, so V2 3000 doesn't show liquidity. I don't know what's up with that. Sometimes deck screener's a little weird. Probably low liquidity though. So it's just kind of a reference point to 3000. So you kind of see that on the day instead of the second chart. The 2460 trend-wise just been rising a little bit against HTT-8000. Not enough information to make any conclusions of what that means. But we do know the 2460 in 20 days is redeemable. And HTT-8000, of course, is not. But remember, HTTs don't just disappear after redemption. They don't just disappear. They can still be minted for up to 2 years afterwards. And as long as all the stakes have been ended, the HEX is still in the contract. So you can end up with, that's a good example. Let's go look at the HTTs. You can end up with an HTT that's a historic reference point. That ends up being a reference point that you can look at and see. What do I mean by that? Let's go look. Put the whole list up here again. So like you have this 2430. It's done. We're at 20. What did we say? 2443 today. So it's 2 weeks ago that was redeemable. But this pool was still out there. Now, as long as there's HEX in the contract, it's these 2430s that are in this pool are redeemable 1-to-1 with HEX. So if you go look, how would you know that? So you can come into the Earn tab here, go to Community End Stake, and you can go see whether or not all of the stakes have been ended. This is probably going to become a thing for people who are in this ecosystem. If I go to 2430, submit, there's no stakes. Do stakes. But if there were, you might end them to make sure that the collateral is there. So let's go custom redemption. I'm going to do 2460, submit. Okay. All right. So we got, it looks like a dozen stakes for 2460. That'll be coming up. Got 5,000 HEX stake, 72,000. Put them in order. 400,000, 369, 300,000. So for a total of 40 T shares and 1.8 million HEX. All right, so what will happen? Well, right now, can't do nothing. right? Boom, I could try to end the stake, but it's going to come back and say collateral stakes cannot be ended until the redemption date is passed. So you got to get to redemption. So what happens if you get to the redemption day? If you have stakes, you need to make sure you're managing your own. If you can do that, it's always a good idea. Go mint your hedron if you want your hedron before the stake ends, that type of thing. But so we get to day 2460. Any of you with a valid wallet and some pulse in the wallet can come in here and say, "Oh, give me all these stakes and the stakes," bloop, and I probably wouldn't do all 12 in one shot, right? Because they'll just loop through and you get up with stuck transaction, get stuck for a long time. But what you could do is come in here and just pick one of them and end it, right? So for the first 3 days, so day 0, redemption day, you get three other days. You as the owner can come and, but anybody else can come in too. Right? So any of us can end these. After 3 days, though, if I'm not the owner, you'll see this end staker reward. I wonder if somebody will let that happen this time so we can actually see it happen. But anyways, what it does, the system does, is it escrows a small percentage of the rewards. I think it's 10% of the rewards that are out there. It'll escrow them. And so if the owner or somebody else doesn't end the stake after 3 days, you'll start seeing a bounty appear here at the end staker reward. See a little bounty will come up. And if you click on it and you end it, you'll earn that bounty. All right. And so as long as all 12 of these are ended and all of the HEX is in the contract that needs to be in the contract, and the 2460 can live forever as a very small reference point in terms of, well, it could be big too, I guess. Something like they could leave the whole pool up if they wanted to. And 2460s could just be, sit out there as a pool. Probably not capital efficient to do that, though. It's probably not capital efficient, right? Because it's a older HTT, nobody's really going to mint them, so there's no real purpose. But if you chose to leave the pool, there's no hurry. There's no hurry to get out, at all. To do it. So these 2460s, HTTs, they don't just disappear when we get past redemption. All right, let's see. I think I'm probably droning too much here. I'm going to go ahead and move out. A little bit over an hour. You got it, Top Gun. You got it. No worries. I maths are hard for me sometimes. Do too much math. RS HEX, good to see you. Good to see you, Mike. Good to see you as well. We're doing pretty good. We're staying crispy out here, Mike. Staying crispy. Jazzy, I see you there, man. Yeah, guys. So if you have questions, comments, whatever, go over to Telegram, go to the X. Actuator Finance has an X, at Actuator Finance. You can go do that. You send me a question, comment, thought, and we'll put that together. We'll put answers up. Somebody will answer. We have pretty good people. That HEX Bond site, link is in the show notes. I'm going to be taking a look at the HEX Analyzer site here in the coming days. See what else we can surface information-wise. Like, subscribe, share. If you have somebody who you want to introduce to Actuator, send them the link to the docs. There's some pretty good docs. The AIs are able to consume it and tell you exactly what's up. And it's funny, different people have different viewpoints on this whole thing, right? Of course. So everybody's not going to be a big supporter of this Actuator protocol and doing this for whatever perceived reasons. But I really do feel like it's a window into a lot more staking. a lot more staking. And I think we will probably prove it on stream sometime. But let's watch the 8,000, see how much get locked up. I mean, you know, that's a pretty good amount of hex. I think we have a couple of hex whales that are into Actuator, but you know, we haven't seen a lot of them. Have not seen a lot of them. Now, of course, we're all a little jaded by all the BS that's happened over the years. You know, with different things. So I can understand people are slow to look at stuff sometimes. But we haven't seen a lot of them. And you know, somebody said to me the other day, well, maybe the reason they're not interested, maybe the reason whales aren't looking at Actuator or getting involved in Actuator is just simply this, is that the more things grow in ways that they don't control, the less power that they have. You know, so if I get a bunch of T-shares, their payout goes down. Maybe they don't want me to get a bunch of T-shares. Maybe they don't want. Maybe they don't want to share. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe, but it's all been very interesting to watch and measurable, and transparent and immutable, all that stuff. And so with that, we'll send you out with tea. I don't think I have anything else to go over today, and we're still seeing a little bit of a battle on this price. Given the opportunity, a little dippy-do here. Let's see if it stays up above that 3158. This is on the hourly, so it's coming down, but pretty good. A pretty good movement. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end the stream. I'll see you guys next time.
Yo, T, urgent hex buy signal. Charts flaming hot.
Golden ratio, huh? That's how legends stack T-shares.
Get them while they're crispy, folks. This window won't stay open long.
Stake smart. Win big. Time rewards those who act.
Stay crispy, Hexicans.
You gotta move it, move it! Feel the rhythm of the blockchain.